Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation of the Kirk webinar series entitled Recycling and Reuse in the UK. My name is Larry Cook. I'm the Recycling Coordinator at the University of South Carolina, as well as Chair of the Kirk Board of Directors. I'll be your moderator today. For those of you not familiar with Kirk, the College and University Recycling Coalition is a member-based organization that works to grow collegiate recycling and waste reduction efforts by fostering technical information exchange and networking opportunities between the staff and student leaders implementing programs. Today's program is part of our free Kirk webinar series, which is designed to highlight innovative campus programs and provide trends and perspectives on a broad range of operational, educational, and other topics related to collegiate recycling and sustainable materials management. I want to thank our sponsor for today's webinar, Warpit. We'll hear a little later from Daniel O'Connor telling us more about the company's services for handling surplus furniture and other reusable materials. I also want to thank ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, for the logistical and promotional support of the webinar series. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over. If you have problems with your audio or video during the webinar, you can reach a live technician by calling GoToWebinar's customer support line at 800-263-6317. To avoid background noise, we've placed all but our panelists' lines on mute. We encourage you to submit questions at any time, however, by using the dashboard on the right side of your screen. Simply click the plus symbol where it says questions to type us a note, and we will read as many of these as possible out loud at the end of the presentations. Copies of today's presentation slides, as well as other handout materials, are available to download now from the Kirk website, and we'll have a recording available to stream within the next day. On today's webinar, we'll hear presentations from 3 universities in the United Kingdom, describing different aspects of how they manage recycling, reusable items, and other program aspects to reduce waste. We'll begin with Michael Howroyd from the University of Leeds, followed by Gary Stratmann and Alex Jones of University College London. As I mentioned, we'll then invite Daniel O'Connor to tell us more about Warpit before finishing off with a presentation from Emma Demond at the University of Kent. Michael Howroyd manages the University of Leeds Environmental Management System and ISO 14001-2015 accreditation, as well as multiple additional work strands such as the management of the Reuse at Leeds platform, the biodiversity program, and the newly developed internal behavioral change program, Blueprint. Before joining the Leeds team, Michael worked in a variety of related disciplines, including farming, landscaping, forestry, academic research, and practical conservation and events management. He is an alumni of Reese Heath College of Agriculture and Sheffield Hallam University with a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Conservation. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me. Hopefully everybody can understand my accent, first of all. Apologies if you can't. I'll try my best, and if you do have any questions after the session, please do feel free to get in touch at any time. Yeah, as we've just said, really, yeah, my background is conservation and farming, really, and I came to the university initially to solve the problem around furniture waste and reuse. But really, I suppose it's the practical approach and practical solutions that really helped us to drive the agenda forward with reuse at the university. So I'll start off talking a little bit about the sort of background and then lead down and eventually finish with a bit about Blueprint, the new scheme that we've developed. And at any point, please feel free to throw questions in there and I'll try my best to answer as we go along. Just waiting for the next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so for those that might not know, the University of Leeds is the member of the Russell Group of world-class research-intensive universities. We do all kinds of incredible research here, and that's based over 8 faculties with over 40 schools. We've got really 40,000 staff and students in the university from 147 countries, and it makes us really one of the biggest landowners in the city, with a 200-acre city centre site and an additional 200-acre site off campus, which includes an Olympic cycle track, sports grounds, and then as well as that, farms heading out towards York, where research is carried out. And so, yeah, we have quite a big presence within the city, and we own all of our own residential sites as well. So yeah, we cover quite a lot of ground, and I always like to compare our population to the population of a little seaside town in Yorkshire, Scarborough. That's a population of 50,000 people, and it kind of really brings home, really, I suppose, the size and scale of the university here in Leeds. We're right in the middle of the city, and it's a publicly accessible site. So the public can walk through at any time and visit all of the areas of campus. And so really we are on show, and we're very much a part of the city, and our student population is very much a part of the city. So we have a massive influence on the city, I suppose, and the way we work within Leeds. So quite a big responsibility in that sense. Slide isn't moving. Hopefully that'll stop. I pressed it twice. If it didn't, I'll have to go back. So yeah, we were the first university in the UK to successfully implement a campus-wide reuse initiative. And when I say that, other universities have tried this over the years. And I think the problem always came back to all the traditional sort of issues you have with storage of furniture, logistics, time involvement, etc. So really, we were the first ones, I suppose, to come up with a methodology that really worked in a realistic way, that allowed us to track our financial and carbon savings as a result of the work we were doing. In the first 3 months of implementation, we saved over £300,000, and there was no budget there. That was all done through a very simple, very simple email distribution list, for want of a better phrase. And it was all really down to picking the right people, picking the right moments, and really timing, but also thinking about how we approach people and how we approach the procurement process, which I'll talk about a little bit later. In terms of construction waste, the university is going through a massive redevelopment and capital projects work at the moment. It's the second stage of that, I guess, really. We started this back in 2009, and that was really the first massive growth since the 1960s, 1970s. But with the city campus, we have a mixture of everything from Georgian properties right through to the 1970s. So this was really the first really big investment. So there's lots of new buildings gone up in the last 10 years, but we've managed to stay well over 90% on the recycling rate with all of that work, which there's been a real achievement really for us, I think. It's been about sort of really engaging with the contractors and trying to find ways to really improve what we're doing. And I think really we've gone beyond that work now. We're actually looking at how we can reuse and take advantage of the stuff we're taking out and reusing that on site wherever we can as well now. We've had an established waste and recycling group at the university since before my time. This is something that has developed over the years, but continues to see lots of initiatives come out of that. We have representation on that group from academic staff who are experts in everything from circular economy and waste management. We have representatives from our waste contractor who works on site with us, and various services, including residential services, etc. Our office waste is segregated at source, and this is something really we've had to fight a little bit for at the university, in that I suppose really the real drive at the moment, or seems to be, a move towards dry mix recycling and general waste as 2 or maybe 3 with glass recycling streams, which kind of, I suppose, conveniently sets up lots of waste for incineration for energy recovery. But we're absolutely adamant that what we're here to do is to educate future leaders, everybody to go out into the world, really, I suppose, from the university students and staff, and really think about where waste goes and what waste is. I hate calling it waste. I prefer commodities, since most of the stuff that we segregate actually has value. It's not really waste at all. The only real incineration is from our general waste, where that's a mixture of contamination and other sort of nasties, I suppose. So that is sorted through a materials recovery facility, but the larger percentage of that still goes to incineration for energy. And really, this is supporting our move towards circular economy, really, to try and get people thinking that way. In 2012, really, that's when everything changed for us, because our sustainability service was created, and we got an academic, a former University of Leeds academic, to lead on the work. And we created our first sustainability strategy, which was launched in 2015. And that really drove where we are now, I suppose. It's been a journey, but a journey I think has really paid off for us. We no longer sit under the estates service, which we did before. We sit alongside those guys, and we have direct sort of influence on the senior areas of the university to really sort of implement some positive changes. And it's an integrated sustainability strategy as well. So we're I suppose really looking at not just the environmental sustainability, but also the economic and social as well. I've clicked now onto the next slide, which really sort of summarizes our 4 key strands of our strategy, which are around the embedding. And you can see there, it's about developing robust management systems, building knowledge and capacity. So that's really making sure, I guess, that all of our student population and staff population understand what sustainability is and can use that, regardless of whatever discipline they're studying or working in. They understand why this is important, and that it's just a way of life, and it's a way that they need to operate and work and live. The being positive partner in society, really, I suppose, is thinking of what I was mentioning earlier about the population and the impact we have on society. In the city, we have a lot of students who live in the local area and impact on the local community, and we want that to be a positive experience. And also, a lot of our students are coming straight from home into a big city with no sort of experience of that wider world. We want to really give them that positive start to really feel like they can add a positive contribution to the area. And the last one really is making the most of resources. That's sort of, I suppose, your traditional environmental stuff in a lot of ways. The stuff like the biodiversity, like the waste, procurement, and really making sustainable travel the norm, making people think before they make those decisions around sustainable travel and carbon reduction. At this point, I think it might be worth launching our little poll that we've done. So at the university, we recently made a pretty serious commitment to remove all single-use plastics from the university by 2023, with the first couple of years really focusing on our catering outlets and our delivered services in that sense. And then by 2023, we want to be looking at the labs and the really hard to reach areas and really sort of going for this. So it'd be good to know if any other institutions from the people that are on at the moment have actually made any commitment, and it would be great if you have, to hear from you, or if you haven't, why you haven't. Please feel free to follow up. I'd be very interested to hear more. So yeah, so I'll leave that one there. I don't know how long I have to leave it for before I can move on. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, interesting. That's good. Yeah, I mean, that'd be really good to find out more about the people that are developing one, particularly to see sort of how that journey's going for you, and the ones that have, how you're getting along. Some of my colleagues who are specifically working on the single-use plastic project, be very interested to hear how you're getting along with that. Thank you very much. Okay, so just quickly getting back to, and I hope you like the little graphic there. Oh, okay. I'm not sure I'll get back to the slides now. Hopefully it'll just come back. Okay, so yeah, the graphic there was really, it's what came out of the strategy. We spent a long time sort of engaging with stakeholders, students, staff, community, and so these pictures really sort of, I suppose, captured the feeling at the time, and there was a lot of real good feedback from people that everybody wanted to reduce consumption. They wanted to share equipment, spaces, skills and services. It wasn't just about the furniture. It was about sort of the bigger thing, you know, the bigger collaborative consumption, the shared economy, which was really positive for us because it allowed us to really sort of embed that into areas such as procurement, where we have a very close relationship with a lot of our suppliers, and we have, as part of our environmental management system, we have tight policies and procedures, particularly as a procurement standard, to make sure that we actually embed sustainable procurement into all of our supply chain. And we're by no means perfect. We're working towards continual improvement, but hopefully with, I suppose, quite a lot of work, we'll get there. But we are sort of really trying with that. And we always try and consider those ethical and social elements and embed that wherever we can into contracts. And really, I suppose our commitment around waste is to just reduce the overall waste. Although we don't send anything to landfill anymore, that's kind of a thing of the past. We want to improve what people are putting into these segregated bins to reduce the contamination and essentially reduce the overall waste to get that down, because people, you know, we want to get to a point where people are not feeling they need to buy lots of disposable stuff such as bottles and other things like that, and actually are finding alternatives. I'm sure these pictures are a bit familiar. This is just talking a bit about our reuse at Leeds program, and this is prior to, I suppose, the launching of the scheme. I'm sure everybody's seen these skips before, full of furniture. I just think that's quite a nice visual way of sort of showing it. But I suppose really our system was based on a very simple method of sharing assets. It was easy to capture, I suppose, the financial savings and carbon savings. But really, I suppose what we wanted to do was really prove that there was no need for storage. Storage is a big thing that kept coming up at the time. You know, you can't do reuse without storage, and we were determined to prove that wrong. So we developed a system that was actually easier than the procurement option, which took a bit of work, but I think it was about 6 clicks we had to get it below to actually make it easier than buying through the conventional way for a new piece of furniture. And we did that. That was kind of where we succeeded. But we've also done a lot of longer term solutions. So the Northeastern Universities Purchasing Consortia, who control a lot of our furniture contracts, they also work with us to create a new kind of framework for suppliers that can offer reuse and upcycling options as part of furniture. So these guys now take away any surplus furniture and assets that we can't use, store it for a period and keep it on our reuse system, but then ultimately if that doesn't get taken, they donate it to charity on our behalf. So so it's kind of a bit of an ideal system for us because it makes sure that we contribute to society. Nothing's going into skips, and we're saving money as well. So we've made some real wins there. In November 2017, and it's important really that Dan and I are old friends really now. We were talking about Warpit back in 2009, and I suppose really we've been on a very similar journey all that time. The big difference was Dan was creating a saleable system, I guess, a platform that people could buy into, whereas I just created an internal reuse system. And ours became dated, and really what we wanted to do was widen the scope of what we were doing internally. We had a great internal reuse system, but what we wanted to do was widen that and offer more to the local area, to the local councils, local schools, beyond what we were already doing. And through the Warpit system and through the contracts we've got, we have, since last November, made some significant savings. So through the system itself, we've saved over about 50, 60,000 pound, I think, last time I checked. But overall, you know, it's well over £500,000 in terms of what we've sent to charities, schools. So it's having a massive impact, which is massively reducing the waste, and you only have to add up the cost of skips to see how the value of that stacks up. And also there's a cost saving in purchase time. You know, it takes quite a lot of time, as everybody will know, on actually setting up contracts, purchasing furniture, actually being around for deliveries, installing furniture. All those sort of costs are all there as well, and there's a resource beyond financial really there that's been saved, and it allows us really, I suppose, to become more of a positive partner in the community as per our strategy. So yeah, so really, I just wanted to really summarise some of our big figures really. So the office waste over 100 tonnes a month, and this is the individual waste bins. So this is the general waste, this is the paper, plastic, metal, glass. There's a load of work to do there. We're nowhere near perfect, but what we're trying to do really is give our students that firm foundation and our staff that knowledge that that recycling is important, and that should be thought about really before anything else, before incineration. The Reuse at Leeds scheme, I've already sort of talked about this to death, but it is an incredible system. We continue to make massive savings with that, and I'm very happy to share, and have shared over the years, our methodology and our way of doing it that Dan, I'm sure, will talk about as well. And our construction waste, you know, for 17-18, we've done £34 million worth of projects that were completed in that time. And 6,600 tonnes of that, 6,700 tonnes of waste was actually diverted from landfill. So when you think about that extra 100 tonnes, that's the stuff that really can't be taken out, the difficult stuff, I suppose, some of which landfill, some of which is dealt with as hazardous and contaminated waste. So we do really well with construction, and we're very proud of that, and I think I like to hope that's something that will continue. I throw these in because really it's a couple of quotes that kind of sum up sort of what forces these changes. So it's easier to throw things out to fix than to fix them, and we call it recycling because it is easier to dispose, which is the real problem. And consuming away, you know, basically it's financial. You know, we want to save money. And that is the bottom line, I guess. But it's all, the point I'm trying to make is that all of this is taught and learned behaviour, and it's stuff that can be changed. You know, we all know we're all in the same boat, I think, in sustainability, but beyond our own sort of sphere, I guess. This is the message we need to get across, that it's beyond just thinking about how we can save time and money. It's actually, there's a bigger picture there, I guess. I always put this picture in because I always think of storage, and whenever I think of storage, I think of this place. I think it's Area 51, isn't it? But the quote there, you know, if the green stuff is costing money, then you're doing it wrong. I think that's fair. You know, I think the investment we've made in things such as reuse has paid back 100-fold, and continues to do so. And it's definitely the way forward for us, I think. Just a little bit on the new blueprint scheme. Some of you may be aware of the National Union of Students Green Impact Programme, which was a national programme that we've been signed up to for the past 10 years or so. Well, about 8 years actually. We outgrew that program, I think, really. It was brilliant. It kind of helped us on our journey in that it allowed schools and services to get involved in small changes, making small changes on a local level to improve their sustainability. But what we kind of realized was we needed something beyond that now. So we created Blueprint really as a way of embedding into the culture, a way that people could make sustainable change on a local level for things that were important to them. So the Green Impact Programme was very much a tick box system, making sure you turn off the lights, the computers, the things like that. Whereas our scheme now is very much about engaging with teams on a school and service level and making them think really critically about where they think their impacts and opportunities are, and then building a structure around that for them to self-assess really on their own progress. We launched 6 pilots last year, and we're running those now. We've had about 25 teams across the university come forward since we launched in October, and we're in the process of getting those through the process of building their blueprint at the moment. So, I mean, yeah, if anybody wants to hear more about that, I'm very happy to share that. And yeah, it'd be good to hear from you. It's something we're very proud of. And yeah, really, I'm kind of finishing here now on a little quote that's in our strategy from our Vice Chancellor, Every one of us has a part to play in building a sustainable future. And really, for me, this is really sort of inspirational to come from the Vice Chancellor. It kind of shows that we have a real senior commitment and this stuff is being taken really seriously at the top. And that's me. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mike. That was really great. And I understand that you've got to leave here in a few minutes, but we do have a couple questions for you.
Yep.
And as a reminder, if you do have a question for any of our speakers today, click on the plus sign in your dashboard under the word question. And another little note, there are a couple of handouts from Mike in the handouts tab in the dashboard. You mentioned early on that after the first 3 months of your first reuse program, you saved 300,000 pounds. Is that saving? What made up that savings? Was that just not buying new stuff, or were there other parts to that?
Mainly, it was the cost of replacement. So if you imagine that a desk chair might cost £80, the top price might be 300, the lowest price might be 60. It was taking a bit of an average price in between for each item and putting that to the cost of the items that we were throwing away or ultimately recovering, but then also considering the cost that it would have had to put that into a skip as well. So in terms of the space in the skip, in terms of the labor required to break it up and throw it into the skip, and also the procurement time to actually to do that work, and then putting that all together, and it becomes quite a compelling argument because nobody can actually argue that point.
Right. Okay. And then when furniture or equipment or anything is actually end of life, you gave the example of a chair. So say somebody's broken a whole leg off or something. How do actual end of life things play into your general waste management program?
Well, first of all, I would say that's not end of life. I would say that if a chair had broken a leg, unless it can be repaired or recovered in any way, then it's probably not end of life yet. And what we've got, I mentioned the NEUPC contract, those companies take that broken stuff and actually recover materials from them. So the casters off the office chairs, the arms, the gas units, and actually stockpile those, use those on other ones and kind of cobble new items together from that. So nothing's wasted unless it absolutely has to be.
Great. And then one final question before you go.
Yeah.
How difficult has it been to, we're talking about the single-use plastics ban and removal, how difficult has that been from all the different groups on campus? At least here in the United States, of course, we have pouring contracts where Coca-Cola or Pepsi have vending machines across campus, and there's revenue generated from that. Do you have any kind of comments on where to start and particular problem areas from your experience?
I would say we're very early in the journey yet. We're
Okay.
always looking for ideas. But in terms of the vending machine, do you mean the reverse vending machines?
No, I'm talking about just like for a new can of Coke or bottle of Coke or are you including that in your single-use plastics like a drink bottle?
No. I mean, I was going to say on the single use. There's a lot of reverse vending machines popping up at the moment over in the UK, and I think really. I'm not apprehensive. I think it's a great idea. I think they have a place perhaps in the community, but on campus, I think we're really trying to encourage people to not be buying these things in the first place. So the jury's out a little bit for me. I'm not sure whether that's the right solution, and that's kind of what I was questioning, really, I guess. But yeah, I would say we're very early in the journey, and we're still trying to find our way with it. So that's why I sort of asked the question, because if anybody is a bit further along than us, I'm hoping they can share some best practice.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much for your time. We're going to move on to the next presentations. Next up, we're joined by Alex Jones and Gary Stratmann from the University College London. Alex Jones manages UCL's environmental management system, which identifies environmental impacts and supporting measures to minimize them. Alex engages with campus departments to support the system and also works closely with the central procurement team to ensure the goods and services that UCL purchases are responsible and have a low environmental and ethical impact. Gary Stratmann is the service manager with oversight of waste management across UCL, as well as programs for reuse, repurposing, and redeployment of material. He works closely with the university's contractors, the sustainability team, and colleagues across the university to minimize waste and promote reuse where possible. With that, I'll hand it over to Alex and Gary.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we're here to talk about UCL and about waste, recycling, reuse, and food, or as Gary likes to sometimes state,
I can talk rubbish for hours.
So yeah, just to introduce, so introduction to UCL. So we're a London-based university. We're founded in 1826. That's one of the oldest universities in England. We have over 40,000 students and 13,000 staff. To put that into context, we've approximately doubled in terms of a number of people at university over the last 10 years. So we've had a really big kind of period of expansion, and we're based in the heart of London in Bloomsbury. So with that comes quite a lot of issues around space and development, as you can understand from any big city. We comprise over 100 departments, institutes, and research centres. And some more interesting facts around UCL. Our founder, Jeremy Bentham, his skeleton is on display in the campus with a wax head. We were the first entirely secular university in England. And more recently, our claim to fame is that the front quad was used as a model for ancient Rome in the blockbuster Gladiator.
Right. The way that we manage our primary recycling and waste provision is through a series of service contracts, primarily the soft services contract, which covers everything except hazardous waste, for which we have a separate contract. That's the kind of stuff that labs generate. But within the main generation of waste materials across UCL, we've gone down the three primary waste streams. We've gone to dry mixed recycling, general waste, and food waste. And the recycler goes to a materials recovery facility for separation and on recycling. And service providers reckon that for a bag of recycling that has not been badly contaminated, so standard recycling out of the bin, they can recover somewhere between 96 and 98% of the material in that bag of waste. And that goes then is bundled up for onward use as recycled. General waste is burned with energy recovery, and that's again through contractors and subcontractors, and where we have been zero to landfill for at least the past 5 years. We were very close to it before that, but certainly for the last 5 years, we don't send any waste to landfill. And that's quite a big thing in the UK, that there's a huge push to get away from materials ending up in landfill. And then what we do with the food waste, rather than composting, it goes for anaerobic digestion, so it produces both compost and biogas. And one of the things we say, and as you can see in the poster on this slide, almost anything can go in a mixed recycling bin. Because what we're trying to do is to encourage people to get stuff into the right bin. We're trying to keep it relatively simple for them.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about some of the more interesting initiatives we have around recycling and waste. So the first thing is BioBean. This is an interesting example of how we've looked at our waste streams. A biochemist at UCL, while he was doing his master's, found out that there was a way of taking waste coffee grounds and turning it into a biofuel. So he was developing it while he was studying. UCL then helped him start up the company BioBean after he left university. And it's been really successful. He's managed to spread around London, initially collecting up coffee grounds from all the various coffee shops that our city offers, collecting it up and turning it into initially a log, which could be burnt, but now he's created a liquid biofuel, which has potential to be used in much further sort of in vehicles and engines. What's really nice about this is because he was an ex-student and he now collects our own coffee grounds, it's a nice circular story for us, and it's an interesting way in showing that something that you initially think is waste and it can only ever be waste, actually it might have some value for us. Another thing is around disposable coffee cups. So we've started being able to recycle our coffee cups. We separate them and take them to a special mill, which is able to put the cups into and mix them up and take the plastic film away and be able to get that off the top and recover the actual paper. It turns it into a less useful product, but it still is able to be recovered.
Right. Across the university, on average, that's all departments, we're looking at a recycling rate of about 65%. Now, one of the things that affects those figures is that there's material that, for reasons other than what it's made of, we can't send for recycling. Quite a lot of lab waste is something that we are not able to send for recovery. I'll touch on that a bit further. What we want to do is, our ambition is to achieve 85%. That's, as you can imagine, quite a high percentage recycling. And that's something that we're working on. There are quite a number of initiatives to increase recycling. And one of the things that, similarly to the previous speaker, we have initiatives within the departments to encourage them to improve their recycling rates, for example, and compare departments to each other. There's a bit of a contest, which does certainly encourage people. I already mentioned the zero waste to landfill. One of the things we've done with the general waste to, again, try and recover more material rather than simply send it for incineration, a proportion of our general waste goes to what we call a dirty MRF, a dirty materials recovery facility, where it does go through a separation process and materials that can be reused are actually separated out. You get fairly low recovery, but you can get up to maybe 25% of the material goes into a use rather than being ending up being burnt. But one of our long-term strategies is we are encouraging departments, and this is particularly the research-intensive departments, to look at how they're managing their waste and move from an idea that all waste in laboratories needs to go into a hazardous waste stream, because there's quite a lot of material that can either go down recycling or reuse, or in many cases, and this is something we're trying to look at with some consolidation, go back to the supplier for reuse. For example, the glass bottles that reagents come in, they can go back to the companies who deliver the material and be reused. And Fisher Scientific, who are one of our suppliers, they'll reuse one of their glass bottles 5 times, then they crush it up and turn it back into another glass bottle. So there's actually a fairly continuous loop if we can get the items back to them of reuse.
Yeah, so a key part of reusing is at Warpit.
Sorry, yes, this is Daniel's initiative, and we've worked with Warpit for quite a number of years. The thing with Warpit, the way we've taken it on is we use it as a peer-to-peer system. And I know Dan will be talking more about that, the nuts and bolts of Warpit later. So really, I'm going to talk about how we use it within UCL. It's set up to join Warpit within UCL. You have to be a member of staff or a student. And the primary thing is you've got to have a UCL email address. That's kind of how we identify people, because unsurprisingly, there's quite a lot of spam coming in trying to join, but that we don't allow them onto the system. But so somebody will have something in their department that they don't want anymore, but is perfectly serviceable. They'll list it on Warpit, and someone else who's on Warpit can say, yes, I can use that. We get a lot of take up on low numbers of furniture, one chair, one desk, a lot of stationery. But we also get lab equipment, chemicals. We've had some really exotic stuff like I think someone actually put a ultraviolet microscope on Warpit, and someone else had it and saved themselves tens of thousands of pounds in that particular instance. So that's the way we worked it. And for the central support, aside from the administration side, which Alex and I are involved in, through our portering team, we will assist in moving items from the person who's got it to the person who wants it. So within the main campus and most of the peripheral areas of the campus within London, we'll actually do the transport. So, and that's we do as part of our business as usual portering. We don't charge people for that. When it's going outside that area, it becomes a bit trickier because of costs and time. But what we've also done is, within UCL, we've also partnered with other organizations, universities and charitable organizations, so that there's an element of Warpit which we can exchange on a larger scale. Now, that's a smaller component of what we do, and partially because of the transport issues. We have had items both going out and coming in from other organizations because there's something we've been particularly looking for, or they've been particularly looking for. And there's a saving. But once you build in the transport costs, then people have to think about, are we actually going to make sufficient saving to make it worthwhile? And generally the answer can be yes. And it's a question of how we tie that together.
Yeah, so if we look at the data around Warpit, so I've got the facts on the last year that just happened. So at UCL, we managed to reuse 3,000 items in total, and that saved a lot of carbon. 156 trees or 47 cars off the road are the equivalencies of that carbon. And the savings were £145,000 last year, and that's direct savings for UCL. And all of these data and stats and equivalencies are automatically generated by Warpit. You just run a report and it's there for you. And that's really useful in terms of our own reporting for our sustainability annual report, for our strategy, or even just for telling wider colleagues and senior members of staff, why are we using Warpit? We can instantly tell them the savings and what it's delivering, which is a really good tool for justifying why have Warpit. To date, we've saved over 500k, so that's £500,000, and that's savings for UCL. That's not going to external charity. That is the money we've saved just from reusing stuff internally. So quite a significant amount of savings. We've been using it since 2012, and use has steadily grown throughout the year with kind of light touch work from us. We haven't advertised it that much. We haven't had huge campaigns. It's because we very much had it a peer-to-peer. We just have it, give it to our communities, and they kind of just use it. What's interesting is when you look at the usage throughout the years we've had it, there's very clearly spikes. We know when more and more people are on and reusing and redistributing items. It's around August and September. So if you look at that graph at the top, you can see those spikes that correlate to that. And that, again, can be really easily accessed through Warpit. You can create these graphs quite easily. And it's quite useful having that sort of granular data, being able to look at, when people are using it more. It helps you think about when you should really push Warpit, when is a key time to get people using it. So again, it's really useful having that. And another thing is around actually knowing what items are being redistributed. We kind of guess things that we think commodities that are being reused, but through Warpit, you're actually able to quantify that and have a look. So the below pie graph shows you that some of the biggest items are storage items. So a lot of cabinet units, timber units get reused. And then the second biggest is office consumables. So stationery, lever archer files, those sorts of things that really get reused quite a lot. And again, actually our third biggest is electrical and research and medical equipment. So as Gary alluded to, that it's not just all about the standard things like desks and tables, but some really interesting items get reused through Warpit, and that they actually make up quite a big lot of that 500k savings because they are such high value specialist items. As I mentioned, we didn't have a huge push for for communications or any sort of campaigns around Warpit. It's there to be used, and when we really do try to tell people about it, we communicate it on our website. Gary very much leads on the kind of running it, and I kind of lead on the communicating it and getting it out towards people. And my approach has really been just trying to send some regular information about Warpit. When I first started, I was like, well, how can I communicate reuse? It's not a very interesting topic, but actually through Warpit, once you get working on it, you find that it writes its own stories. So one example is we have a theatre called Bloomsbury Theatre, and they had lots of old broken chairs that were used in the dressing rooms. They went on Warpit, but nobody was claiming them because they were broken. They didn't want them. They weren't really repairable. However, at the last minute, before they were going to go to the skip, Enfield Fire Department, which is a local fire department in London, claimed them because they were also on Warpit as well as partners. And they took them to use in rehearsals and training drills for putting out fires. Essentially, they burnt them. Although it's not a very good example of sustainability, the hook around burning things, releasing carbon. However, it was a good example of showing that anything can go on Warpit, even if it's broken. Somebody may want it. The second example on the right is a very interesting one. So somebody, I think it was also in the Bloomsbury Theatre, had made for a prop. I think it was for archaeology, actually. I think they had made a prop, which was a mock Viking longboat made out of reeds. And that was actually taken and claimed by somebody when it was put on Warpit. So what I try and do is find these interesting stories and try to make a bit of a news piece about them and disseminate that across the organisation. Things like that get people's attention, makes them go, oh yes, Warpit, and kind of reminds them that it's still there to be used.
Now, in addition to Warpit, we've got some other reuse initiatives which we've been trialing. There's a couple of pictures of desks on this slide. Now, one of the problems with these desks is we're tending to move away from single desks and large desks. There's a lot of pressure on space, so it's agile working in smaller desk space, and also to a modular desk systems, which means that we can, if we need to reconfigure, we can actually take the desks apart and put them back together in another shape. But so we've generated desks that are coming out, and it's what we do with them. And the two things we've done is we started working very closely with what we refer to as our capital program or project team. They're the people who do building work, refurbishments, the big stuff, and the smaller projects as well. And we've been going and saying, look, we've got all this stuff, and why don't you reuse it? And once we've managed to overcome a certain amount of pressure that, oh, it's secondhand, it's rubbish, we want nice, shiny new, and said, well, actually, it's as good, and we're saving you this much money, and on a big project, tens to hundreds of thousands of pounds are potentially savable by reusing furniture. We've got quite a lot of take up on that, and now it's part of the project management documents that for any project, when it's going through the stages of development, they are asked to always consider the possibility of reusing items rather than buying in new. And that's been quite a big success, and even on quite big and in fact multi-million-pound projects where they're showpieces for the university, we're still managing to get elements of stuff being reused and disposed of and new being brought in. The other thing we've done is where we've got material that is serviceable and in bulk. So we are refurbishing a set of office spaces. We're generating 200 desks that are not a type we can reuse with it. And we know that in any reasonable time frame, we're not going to find a reuse of them within the university. Rather than, because we use Warpit for the peer-to-peer, we're working with charity organizations and some of our contractors. Say, well, let's get it out there. What can we do with it? And we've particularly been working with an organization that works with charities, not only large charities, but smaller charities who are interested in items like this. And again, it works a bit like a free eBay, that it gets listed and someone will say, yes, I'll have that. So the two desks in the lower pictures, things like that, will go to a small office-based charity who need a couple of desks. We'll save them for those two desks 800 to 1,000 pounds possibly, and that's probably a bit more than they actually, maybe 500 to 800 pounds, and they can use that for their charity work instead of having to buy that in. And so that means that their funding is being used for their primary purpose as opposed to furnishing their office. And it's this sort of thing. We've been doing more with that and working with organizations also to repurpose. So take a desk that's 2 meters long, which nobody wants anymore, and get it resized down to 1.5 meters or even 1 meter, and get it back into use. So these are the sort of elements we're looking at, particularly where we've got a bulk amount of material that we need to do something with, because again, storage space is very, very constrained. So we can't afford to keep things a long periods of time in the hope they'll be useful one day. We've got to take a fairly strong approach. We can use it, we can't. And I tend to work on a basis, if I think I can make use of it in 3 months, I'll keep it. If I can't, I have to find something to do with it.
Yeah, so moving on to talk about our bin system at UCL. So at UCL, we've tried to have as uniform signage and waste separation across the university. So the 3 primary waste streams are agreed in consultation with our contractors to improve the quality of recycling and minimize contamination while keeping the system as simple as possible. Our bin signage system has a little bit of legacy. It was developed sort of firstly with the Olympic Park for the Olympics in 2012. So that image there on the right is of the ones in the Olympic Park, and we took that idea and the idea was to develop these at UCL to, further. The whole point of the system is to make them the language agnostic as possible. And the bin signage system is backed up with information on UCL website and communication via my team, the sustainability team.
Yes, and this slide shows some examples of the type of bins we're using, because one of the things we're trying to balance, we're moving away from individual on-the-desk bins and trying to get larger bins, but there's always a balance to strike about how far someone will walk to put something in the right bin. And the bins on the left of the image are our sort of signature bins that we have in high traffic areas, and we get a lot of people using them to actually help promote the system. And the signage is on the right that shows you there are variations on that depending where they go, but it gives an indication of the sort of things that can go into the different waste streams. Because when we did the work with, particularly with our supply chain, we said the biggest thing to get out of recycling is anything that makes it wet, particularly food. And so that's why we went down one of the reasons we went down the separate food waste stream. Obviously, utilizing the food waste separately as well is good, but also the to improve the quality of the recycler, which makes our contractors happy, which means we get a much better working relationship with them, and we are actually improving our recycling from that point of view. And just the middle picture is just one of the examples of a single-use bin. There's a couple of others. They just basically have a different colored top and a sticker, which is based on the signage, just to give people an indication of what they're for. And with food waste, what we decided as part of the rollout was that we wanted as much as possible to have the bin system and the waste streams uniform across all parts of the university. So regardless of where you are, you've got pretty much the same signs, the same bin types, so that people will come to understand the system, and particularly, excuse me, particularly that we use a uniform management of waste. Now, where we've got enough, where we're generating enough food to justify putting it in a separate waste stream, because there's an economic cost to collecting it and moving it, we use the food waste goes into the anaerobic digestion system. But where we have small amounts of food waste generated, laboratory blocks would be one, because we don't allow people to do much eating in laboratories. We'd still have the food bins in T points, but we wouldn't necessarily collect the food and take it on for anaerobic digestion. So what we do is that goes back into the general waste, but we keep the bin separations there. And we do tell staff why we do it. It's not secret. But what we're trying to do is that particularly students move around all parts of the campus. And so we want them to be able to see the same signs and the same methodology to encourage the same waste behaviors. And we worked with our Department of Behavior Change on this, and they've done a few experiments. And one of the things that's come back is that it is something that works.
Yeah, with food waste, with our caterers, we have kind of 3-stage process in which we can try to minimize waste from all of our outlets. So they're going to produce food, and there's going to be some sort of leftover. So the first thing is they have started to use this app called Too Good to Use. Through that, they sell their leftover food at a discounted rate. So prior to them closing for that day, they can go work out how much portions they have left, put that onto the app, and it gives a discount to students. But it's also open to the public, so public members can also go in and buy it. If they don't manage to sell all of it, we then are able to give the leftover to a student society called Zero Food Waste UCL, and they take the food waste and give it to homeless charities in the area. After those 2 stages, if there is still leftover food which really can't be redistributed, it goes into the local biodigester, which we have in our refectory, and that is able to break down the food into just water. It's called waste to water, and that sort of environmentally friendly way of reducing our food waste. So really, to wrap up, we have got a good recycling rate, but we really want to increase it to that 85%, and a uniform signage and system is key to this. Furniture are core items for reusing within UCL, and it's something we're really looking to do more of. Warpit provides primarily a peer-to-peer platform at UCL. We don't use it for bigger projects, and that works for our system. Also, there's plenty of opportunities to explore alternative reuse methods and innovation. So such as that, reusing coffee beans is a good example of that. So I'd just like to end and say thank you, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Thanks so much, Alex and Gary. We don't have time for a lot of questions right now, but I do want to ask one quick one before we move on to Daniel. When you talked about doing the transportation, do you ever have any issues with moving around hazardous materials or solvents or anything as you're redistributing the stuff as you transport across campus?
Generally speaking, hazardous materials wouldn't end up on Warpit, or if they did, because we'd pick that up with the departments. But we do have the option of using our hazardous waste contractor to move materials if we need to. It's not been a big issue. We've also, the laboratories tend to have safe systems of working, so they would, when they're working with a hazardous material, and if they were going to move it, they would already be aware of how it needs to be packaged and ready to go. So it would be in things like UN approved containers. And our portering team are trained in moving hazardous materials to a degree, and beyond their level of competence and expertise, the instructions are, don't do it, come and talk to me, and I'll find out how we can do it safely.
Great. And we do have some more questions, but we'll save those to the end. So in a few minutes, we'll hear from our final presenter, Emma Demond from the University of Kent. First, though, I want to introduce Daniel O'Connor, who will tell us more about Warpit. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're well. I'm just going to tell you about Warpit for 5 minutes. So I'm Daniel, I'm from Warpit, and you've been hearing from a couple of our customers today. And so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how the system works. I used to be a waste manager working in a busy city centre campus, and I saw up close and personal the issues around reuse that campuses face. You know, You're hearing the word skip a lot. That's the UK term for dumpster. Yeah, so if you're wondering what that term was, it's just dumpster, right? So I used to see chairs, equipment, etc. in skips as part of the day-to-day churn of things on the estate, but also as part of building clearances. So I set up a program to help with that. And this is all about improving internal collaboration between staff. So how this system works is that each of our customers gets their own, sorry, press the one button too many. Each of our customers gets their own portal, which they badge up with their own logos. That portal lives on the intranet site, although it's in the cloud, and I'm showing you UCLs at the moment. So each customer gets a portal like this, which staff sign up and staff use to dispose of assets, but also to claim assets as well. So there's two sides of the same coin, which you're all probably familiar. One side's the disposal, one side's the procurement. So this is a marketplace which presents all of the surplus assets on the estate in a marketplace view, which staff are used to. You know, they're used to Amazon, they're used to eBay, and staff who are procuring items can see what surplus assets are across the estate available today or available in the future as part of a building clearance procedure, okay? Because it's in one place online, it means it can really scale the marketplace. Everyone just visits that one place online to check whether items are available before they buy new, okay? It saves time, it improves safety, and because it's on a marketplace, it increases participation. When you click into an asset, you can see further details, you can ask a question, you can claim 1, 2, 3, 10, 100, and it tracks who puts it on, who's taking it off, where it needs to go to. And as part of that tracking, we also track the kilograms in weight avoided. We track the carbon dioxide emissions avoided. And we also track the procurement savings and the waste disposal savings as well. And all of that can be downloaded as a spreadsheet. And as Alex showed you earlier, you know, we track it automatically within the system as well. You can download reports and download PDFs and that sort of thing. As well as furniture, our customers use it for more challenging items like electricals, lab equipment, like what you saw in the UCL presentation. One of the popular features of Warpit is that staff can set up their own wish lists, and what that means is, you know, instead of having to check in all the time, if I, for example, had a cabinet on my wish list, if anybody adds a cabinet from across the estate, I get a notification, and that marries up the disposer with the recipient in real time, so it's peer-to-peer, as the guys at Gary at UCL mentioned. And what that means is the asset moves from A to B, not A to store to B, so it cuts down on double handling and the need for storage. And also, as part of the building clearance procedure, if you're doing a building clearance at the end of January, for example, you can add the assets now. Staff can see what's going to become available in the future, and they can add them to their watch list. And what that means is, at the end of a building clearance, all of those assets within the building clearance are already booked out across the estate, and the assets move from A to B, okay, not A to store to B, okay. And as well as working internally within the system, you know, so you can set up a marketplace across your organization, you can also link up with other institutions in the town, in the city, in the region, and then you can create this much larger network where you have priority one is internal staff. You know, they want to get your assets first. But if internal staff don't want your assets, then you can advertise them to priority two, which is your friends on the system, okay? And then you can even advertise it further afield, priority three. So what this creates is a nice disposal network for items you don't want, but there's also a procurement opportunity as well. And part of that, you know, you can link up with local schools, children's schools, charities, that sort of thing. There's my 5 minutes up. So that can satisfy a lot of the CSR objectives that you have. And when you pass items into the local charity sector, you know, you can really maximize your impact, okay? And just to cover something that the guys have both covered already, as well, just to emphasise, we track all those savings, and then those savings become a really good news story for your reuse activities, because nobody really appreciates the value of reuse. But when you start to appreciate the value of reuse, you can make business cases for extra help, you can make business cases for storage and all that sort of thing. So that's my very quick 5-minute pitch. If you're interested in what we do, we'll get in touch with you after the webinar and we can carry on the conversation. So thank you for that opportunity, guys. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Our final speaker today is Emma Demond from the University of Kent. Emma has always had a passion for the environment and developed an interest in recycling and waste while studying to earn her BA degree in environmental studies. After graduating from the University of Kent in 2014, she went to work as the school's facilities management coordinator for waste and recycling. Her role involves overseeing compliance with waste legislation and recording data, as well as working on behavior change and researching alternatives to improve on the current system of waste management. Welcome, Emma.
Welcome everyone, I hope you're well. First of all, I'd like to apologise that I have got a cold, so my voice isn't sounding great. As explained, my name is Emma Diamond. I work at the University of Kent and I completed an Environmental Studies BA before I started as a member of staff. This picture here is an aerial view of the campus, and it was taken in 2016, and this was for our 50th anniversary. As you can see, the top right hand side of the picture, there's quite a lot of green space. The university owns this itself. There's 300 acres there, which we rent out to local farms, and the part of the picture kind of in the centre where all the buildings are, that's also another 300 acres that we also own. So our campus itself, sorry, we've gone too many there, so we can go one back. Lovely. So the campus itself, we are based in the city of Canterbury, Kent, which is in the southeast of England. We've got two universities that are home to Canterbury. One of them is ourselves, and the other is Canterbury Christchurch University. We are called the UK's European University, and that is because we have other campuses in the EU. Some campuses still in England are Medway, Tunbridge, and then our others are Paris, Athens, and Brussels and Rome. So even though we do have these other campuses, my role is based at our Canterbury campus, and that's where I work day to day, but I do also look after our Medway campus facilities. We have over 20,000 full-time equivalent students, and they study between our Canterbury and our Medway campuses. A much larger portion of them stay at our Canterbury campus. We have degrees that range from history, English, languages, physical sciences, wildlife conservation, psychology, sports sciences, to name a few. We then have over 2,500 full-time equivalent staff, and they work in varied roles within the Estates Department, and our central finance, housekeeping, catering, student services, and the schools themselves. We have both undergrad and postgraduate degrees, right up to the PhD level studied at the university. Within the past 5 years, the university facilities have gone from strength to strength. We have a new law clinic where our students take on spinning cases from our local community, a theatre and a cinema. And next year, the new medical school is going to be built, and this is in collaboration with Canterbury Christchurch University. Our campus, it can be quite confusing at times in regards to what department looks after what facilities. We as Estates are the overall managers of all of the waste and recycling facilities on our campus. This includes following our duty of care, checking and filing waste transfer notes and assignment notes, inputting and analysing waste data, providing all of our external waste bin facilities, managing the collection of waste all over our campus, promoting our facilities through signage, we attend events, we use a lot of social media, and we try to have a physical presence on our campus too. But then we also have other departments such as hospitality, and they coordinate the internal waste facilities within their managed buildings. So this will encompass all of the 5,500 student bedrooms that we have on campus, in addition to our 5 main colleges. So therefore, over the years, we've continued to improve our working relationship with hospitality so that we can all try and work together, reduce the overall general waste production and increase our recycling and reuse options. We then have other departments such as Kent Union, which is our student union. This isn't run by states, but we advise on all of the internal facilities and we remove the waste. So therefore, a close working relationship is vital. We have different waste contractors that handle different waste. We have 2 main contractors. One of these is called Viridor, and they look after our 3 main waste streams. And these are general waste, which is non-recyclables, including our food. Then we have a mixed recycling waste stream, which includes our paper, our card, tins, cans, Tetra Pak, foil, and plastics of all numbers. And then lastly, we have a separate waste stream for our mixed glass bottles and jars. These facilities are available in all of our offices, our social spaces and our catering outlets too. But we do tend to have that the glass is only available within the accommodation areas, our catering outlets and only some of our offices. So all of our waste is removed from the internal buildings by cleaning teams. They have around 200 cleaners that work for hospitality, and so they will look after their managed buildings. And then we have around 100 cleaners with estates, and they manage all of the general buildings that we have on campus. Once this waste is removed by the cleaners from whichever building it has been derived from, they are placed into the external bin facilities and they are collected directly from each location and from Viridor himself. Viridor then take these 3 waste streams to 2 different facilities, and one of these is the energy recovery facility where our general waste goes, and this produces the energy to actually run the plant, and it also goes to local community. And then our other plant is the mixed recovery facility, and this is where all the mixed recycling and our glass goes to. We've just entered into a 3-year contract with Viridor. However, they were our previous contractor too. So at this moment in time, this is actually our 5th year that we are working with them. And so I'd say that by now we have quite a well-established waste stream and contract with them too. However, there are a lot of other different types of waste streams that are collected on campus, and these are on the slide here. We've got a few different of these. Some of them are much better established than others. So, for example, we are just starting to produce a food waste stream, but we've decided to only have this in 6 out of our 11 catering outlets just for the first 6 months. So that we can really monitor how well it works and do a trial basically, and this is going to be going to anaerobic digestion. Hopefully in the future we'll then make this a campus-wide initiative. We then have some more established waste streams, and these include donations with the British Heart Foundation, and they take clothes, shoes, books, bags, homework, etc. We then have battery collections, wood collections, hazardous waste collections, and skips to name a few, which I'll go a bit further into shortly. So this here is a picture of our waste and recycling hub. We have a number of different waste streams produced around campus which comes into this area, and they are collected by our estates logistics team. The recycling hub itself, we officially opened in November 2017, but we had a soft launch of the April that year. The hub itself has a bund underneath, and it contains runoff of any materials within the hub, which then gets sucked out by a hazardous waste contractor. Since opening the hub, we haven't actually had to do this yet, which is quite surprising considering the amount of rain that we get in England. The recycling hub itself is card access only, and it only has staff within estates and certain contractors that have access to this. And so the staff that really use this are really our maintenance and logistics team, because they need regular access. Within the hub itself, we have a number of different skips. As Daniel said, to use in America, that would be a dumpster, and these contain different materials such as small so waste electronic equipment. We then have a hardcore skip, scrap metal, general waste, wood. We then have a WE container, which contains all of our computer equipment, and then we also have containers for batteries, and then some of the more hazardous materials like aerosol sprays, oily rags, plastic tubes, light bulbs, etc. We then also have a freestanding area for our large furniture, including chairs, large metal like filing cabinets, and we also have a section for our wooden pallets. All of our essential estate staff are provided with a user guide, which is available to download from our website, which I'm sure has been made available for you. And this has all of the information on the type of waste that's accepted, how it has to be contained, and the full breakdown on our waste duties as a university. Staff are then actually instructed to sign this acknowledgement slip and send it back to us, which we file. During this first year, we've noticed areas that we can improve on. So we are actually creating new signage for the full recycling hub, and for each of the waste stream using our RAP partners Recycling Now logos, and we'll also create a new user guide. And that's because we've noticed a few things, like that some people are using it for storage, which isn't what it's for. And a part of that, I think, is unfortunately the fact that before this became our recycling hub, it was kind of used as a bit of a storage area. So we've decided to remove full access to all of our state staff, but only supply those that use it in the last 6 months with access. And this is something that we're going to keep doing every year to update, so that we make sure that all of our staff that use this area are totally aware of how they're supposed to. Students aren't permitted to use the recycling hub itself and don't have the access. However, we do offer site tours, which we have done, and we have a number of staff from other departments who we meet, so that they can look around the area and help promote it as well for us. We've got a number of contractors who visit the recycling hub. The main one is East Kent Recycling, who you'll see in these pictures here. They assisted us with designing the site so that the lorries would have enough space to safely move around within the recycling hub. And as it's located just before our main entrance to our estates maintenance yards, we had to make sure that the access was never disturbed. So now I'm just going to move on to a little bit about our waste facilities. On our website, we provide maps of all of our bin facilities. This picture here is one of our waste compounds, and these include the general waste, our mixed recycling, and our glass. Our general waste and our mixed recycling are all contained in 1,100 litre Euro bins. They're provided by the waste contractor, and then we provide the signs. The glass are either contained in 240 litre or 660 litre wheelie bins. It all depends on the actual glass recycling in that area. So we tend to find that accommodation have the smaller and catering outlets tend to have the larger. We have other maps available, and they show our public litter bins, our miscellaneous recycling, which we include our battery points, toning cartridges, electrical items, British Heart Foundation points. So my goal is to condense all of these into one interactive map on our website. I think it's going to take some time to achieve that, however. So here I've just got a few pictures of our internal waste facilities. So it depends on the office or the building user what it is that we provide, and this is something that we coordinate with them to decide our best option. But what we try to do is to have these sort of mixed bins, so that you don't have to go to lots of different areas. There's just one central area where there's a different variety of waste that you can include. The bin that we've got on our right-hand side here is in one of our small meeting rooms within the department, and as you can see, the recycling section is larger than the general waste section, and that's one of the ways that we are trying to promote that we are using more recycled sort of materials rather than your throwaways, your general waste. And at the bottom we've got a little one of our battery bins, and we have all of these available in all of our receptions on campus. Here we then have some of our external waste facilities. So the blue bins with the Viridor logo on, these are the Euro bins that I was talking about. The one where we've got the variety of bins, that's one of our bin compounds, and that's in one of the accommodation areas on campus. We then have different sort of style of public litter bins. The one that's in our top right hand side is the newer sort of style, which is what we're hoping to move towards, but we still obviously have some of our older ones too. And once again, you can see that we've got both types of waste streams in there, and it's all the same sort of colours, all the same signage. We've got one of our British Heart Foundation donation points in the bottom, and this is becoming ever popular and is increasing, which I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. And in our top left-hand corner, we've actually got a chewing gum recycling bin. So we currently have only 2 of these up on campus, because we tend to find that because they're plastic, unfortunately they do get kicked about, and we find that they go missing. So what we have done is actually purchased the metal casings, which we're going to be hopefully putting up in the new year, so that we can have a lot more facilities on our campus. I just wanted to touch on our University of Kent waste strategy. This is included in the information provided for the webinar, and this document itself will be reviewed at the end of 2021, and we chose these timeframes because it falls in line with our Viridor waste contract. So within this document itself, we set out our aims and our key objectives during the time frame, and this includes aspects covering procurement, facilities, and the visual identity, resource efficiency, continuous improvement, and monitoring, to name a few. The aims and objectives set out our workload for the next years for the actions that we have to achieve, such as ensuring that 100% of the waste data is accurately uploaded to our waste expert system, which is an online platform that we use to document the waste data by all of our different contractors. Over the past 3 years, we've kind of plateaued with our recycling percentage, which has reached 65%. That might not seem a lot, but we make sure that we're only including the materials that are exactly recycled. We don't include any of our energy recovery facility data in this. That goes as our general waste. And so we decided that we would kind of change the targets this time around and adapt them for what we feel like would be a good way for us to move forward sustainably. And so what we're doing is having a decrease on our general waste production, and this is using a baseline figure from our 2016 to 17 academic year, which was 780 tonnes, and so by the end of our 2020 academic year, we want to achieve between 4.5% and a 6% reduction, which on here shows you that the max that would be around 45 tonnes of our general waste production. Our second target is to increase the reuse tonnage over that period of time. We want to achieve between 27 and 36% of our baseline figure, which was 55 tonnes. We receive waste transfer notes, all of our collections, and weighbridge tickets, all the weight spreadsheets from all of our contractors, and we compile this into a mass spreadsheet, and then this provides us with all of the up-to-date and accurate figures of our waste production, and that enables us to be able to look back at our previous successes and failures and to look to the future for what we can achieve, and to help making sure and monitoring that we are achieving these targets that are in our strategy. Over the years, we've worked on several ways to change our staff and students' behaviour so that they follow the waste hierarchy. We find that the behaviour change programmes work differently for our staff and for our students. However, there are some similarities. We used to run the Green Impact Scheme through NUS, which the other speakers have also touched on, and they task you on specific actions. However, we found that each year there wasn't much change to the scheme. It meant that our staff were not really interested to carry on going, really. And so therefore, I've worked very closely with my sustainability colleagues to come up with new ideas on what we can do. And the programme that my colleague has put into place is called Future Proof, and that enables staff and students to become more involved with sustainability on campus by bringing together thoughts from different departments so that they can include more into curriculum and provide a sustainable training. And as you can see from the picture here, we're building the university of the future. One of the ways that we do this is all of our new staff complete environmental training as part of their induction, and then more specialised environmental training is conducted depending on the type of job roles they have. But we'd like to change it so that all new staff are receiving good quality environmental training, so they can use that on all aspects of their job. But the best way I'd say to look at this is to please look at our sustainability web pages, and it's to give you more information, and you can learn more about specific projects that we've been working on, such as a recycling trial in our biosciences labs. We also use social media as our main way of communicating to our students, and in fact more and more of our staff as well. We run our own Twitter and Facebook pages, and we are going to take part in an Instagram takeover from the main University of Kent account. All of the links are available from our website. One of the most successful behaviour change programmes in regards to our staff is through programme Warpit. So we joined the scheme in January 2016, and we offer furniture and other items to our Canterbury and Medway campuses, and this is just for our staff. We've decided for the meantime not to include electrical items into this, but we are thinking of ways to progress. So at the time of creating this presentation last week, we've saved a total of just over £560,000 on purchasing costs, and as you can see, that we've avoided nearly 93,000 kilos of waste produced, and all of the other figures like equivalent to cars on the road 120 is up here on the slide. Our next goal is to reach 1 million in savings, but we haven't picked a goal to achieve that as of yet. For around a year, we've opened up our group, so rather than just being peer-to-peer, to include local charities and schools, which we have been donated to successfully. And I've just picked out a few things here to show when it comes to the league table. So that's one of the great things about Warpit, is you can look at how you're working and what you're achieving in comparison to other partners. So as you can see, that overall we are third in the league table for total savings. We are fourth of the savings per month, and we're first at the moment on return on investment. Other things that we're on the league table for is sixth for carbon saving, fifth for waste avoided, and sixth on the trades per month. So I feel like this truly shows how successful reusing our furniture has been to the university, and I'm currently discussing with our procurement department to look at our staff being able to claim the items for home, and actually using Warpit to assist with electrical items being donated to other organisations, educational facilities, and to charities too. With our students, our behaviour change, our biggest behaviour change today is the British Heart Foundation. So since June 2014, we have used the British Heart Foundation as our chosen charity, and since then we've donated around 77 tonnes of items through them just to our Canterbury shop alone. We find that our largest donation drives take place when the students leave the academic year in June, and as you can see from this table, our overall reuse has been very steady over the past 3 years, ranging from 21 to 24 tonnes. However, the weight of the chuck-out days are still increasing. So last year it was 5.7 tonnes, and this year it's 7.8 tonnes. So over 2 tonnes more is quite incredible. We've got 10 different locations on campus that have these points, and they're collected by the Canterbury store. They come once a month through July to April. They're once a week from April to June, and then 2 to 4 times a week when we hit into that June chuck-out period. We always agree these dates with the British Heart Foundation when we look at the previous year's data, and this gives us a good way to actually decide what we need to improve on in the next year. So that is me for now, but I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Great, thank you so much, Emma. We are running short on time, but we do have time for a couple questions. We got a lot of questions about your gum recycling. If you could talk a little bit about what's being done with that. Has it made an impact on the amount of gum that's getting on your paved areas, sidewalks, and things? Just real quick. What's going on with that?
So the gum itself has helped to reduce our cleanup costs, so we're not having to get industrial cleaners to clean up the pathways. We've only used it in our higher footfall areas for now, but we are going to increase that. But the way that it works is it goes off to a company in Manchester who actually process the gum into plastics. And we're finding that for a little investment of our own costs, it's providing a much better waste sustainability. So I'd really encourage, if you're able to do something like that, to do it really.
And what kind of volume are you getting in those little bins? How often do you empty them? Is there some grossness in handling the material? How does that work?
So what we do is it all comes with the package. You have a little sticker that gets popped onto the top so none of the gum can come out, and then we have a little key to take it off its stand. I put them into a much larger bag, and once I have 10, I send them off. They probably only get changed every maybe 4 or 5 months. We don't produce enough to go in there at the moment, but you do get sometimes some cigarettes in there, but that's okay. The process can handle that. And I'd say weight-wise, is probably quite little, to be honest with you. The most of the weight probably comes from the container itself, so I don't know if it'd be a very accurate measure, but I can look into it further and give that information out to go onto the website if you'd like.
Great. So you just pull the whole container off the wall and send that. There's no emptying or dumping or anything like that?
No, I don't have to do any emptying, and the whole container itself is then recycled in the process. So all of those gumdrop containers are also made out of the recycled chewing gum and the previous containers that have been used.
Great. That's people were eating that up. So thanks for that. A question for Gary and Alex. You brought up that a small portion of your waste goes to a dirty MRF, and then it's interesting the difference between both you and Emma's programs and Michael's, where he's still source separating everything and feels very strongly about that, and your institutions have switched to the mixed recycling. But specifically about the dirty MRF, there's a concern in the US that dirty MRF systems undercut recycling programs, or can, instead of complementing aggressive reduction and recycling of waste. Dirty MRFs can be presented as an alternative without separate recycling collections. Have you found that this prevents any or has any drawbacks on your campus for more aggressive recycling and reuse efforts?
Not really. I think the way we've done it is we've made it absolutely clear from the outset that the dirty MRF is not an alternative to recycling. The recycler goes to a separate MRF for onward separation and recycling. What the dirty MRF is doing is the contractor we were working with at the time, the primary use of their dirty MRF was construction waste. So what they were getting down there is they were getting construction waste materials and doing the separations, and basically they were moving out particularly things like wood. They were separating out plasterboard, which is a difficult material in a lot of ways. But what they could do, they realized they could do it, they could take the stuff that was going to general waste and put it through there and try and recover some of the materials for reuse, rather than them going directly into the energy recovery system. So we've never used it as an alternative to the recycling system. It's been an add-on where we're getting a little bit more value out of general waste in terms of recycling. Not there are some companies who say, you just put everything in one bin and it goes off to a dirty MRF and recycling separate out. But the best figures I've had for those are 12 to 15% recycled, which is simply not acceptable to what we're doing. And our feeling is it's a way that some organizations can say, yes, we're sending everything for recycling, and they're really not, because they're only getting a very, relatively speaking, small percentage out. Where dirty MRFs have potentially another use is one of the problems we have in the UK is domestic waste. There's, particularly in an urban environment, you get a lot of contamination, very high levels of contamination, because households aren't separating the waste properly, especially in apartment blocks. So some councils are looking at the dirty MRF solution as a way of getting more value out of the waste. But again, it's not a good way of trying to deal with actual good recyclable material. I wouldn't say, for example, you'd ever want to get paper waste going through a dirty MRF. That wouldn't be the way forward. I mean, that's my thinking on it anyway.
Great. And I just want to bring it back for both Emma and Alex and Gary. You mentioned that you kind of haven't done a hard push for advertising the Warp It exchange, but what have been successful ways of getting people to use it, getting people just to even be aware of it once you implemented it on campus?
Well, we found that we did actually do quite a big push on it, and we make sure that we attend all of our staff induction fairs. We've added it into all of our email signatures for us that work as it with the team. Our interior services and signage department have changed their website, so as soon as a member of staff clicks on to say that they need the information to do with furniture, the Warp It logo pops up, and we say to people, can you have a look at this system first before you purchase anything? And what we try to do is just keep up to date by writing blogs, we send tweets, and we try and promote what we're doing on a day-to-day basis with Warp It.
Yeah, so I can add to that. I mean, yeah, we have not had a really big campaign or a push. We have quite an extensive green impact networks. I think Michael and Emma both spoke about their green impact or blueprint in Leeds term now. We also use green impact. We have, I think, over 100 teams altogether, if you include lab teams and office teams. And through that network, we've very much been able to tell them about Warp It really on a one-to-one basis and explain what it is and get those teams to use it. So that's been our main way of getting the Warp It message into departments. And generally, there's somebody in a department that uses it and has kind of been able to spread the message about use across their department. And yeah, I think in terms of what we do light touch. We do a few articles and news stories about Warp It every so often to try and keep it relevant and tell the wider broader community across UCL about Warp It.
One of the things I tend to get a lot of the odder queries about what do I do with this. People actually contact me rather than looking at the stuff on the web page. And one of the things I'm always clear on is saying, I've got this chair, this desk, this incubator. I need to get rid of it. What do I do? And I always say, have you tried listing it on Warp It? And with some people I said, I haven't thought of that. Yeah, I'll do that. And others saying, what's Warp It? At which point I explain to them and send them the link. So again, it's a kind of word of mouth thing from my part, but I will also work with, we've got within our project groups, we've got some people who are specifically assigned to the smaller jobs, office refurbishments, office moves and things like that. And I'm working with them saying, well, look, you've got half a dozen things. Let's put it on Warp It and see if we can just get someone to take it away and reuse it within the university or with our partners. And if not, then we'll go to plan B and see what we can do with it. So, and they've several of them taken that up quite well. So again, it's getting people to think about it. As Emma was saying, get people to think about it before they do something else. And that's kind of the way we've been doing it as well, but without the sort of big front end, because there's only me doing my job. So I've not really got time to spend a lot of time promoting Warp It. I mean, Alex and the sustainability team do put quite a lot of comms out on it to get the message across, but we haven't sort of done a big advertising poster campaign on it.
Okay, well, that is sadly all the time we have for today, but following this webinar, you should receive a prompt to complete a quick survey. We encourage you to take a minute to give us feedback about today's program. Again, we want to thank Warp It for sponsoring today's webinar, along with ASHE for their support of the 2018 webinar series. Look for their presentations on the Kirk website now. That's CURC, the number 3, letter R.org. A recording of the program will be posted within the next day. One last time, join me in thanking Mike, Gary, Alex, and Emma for taking the time at the end of their workday to share how they manage recycling and waste reduction in the United Kingdom. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.